part two of my conversation with Chris Heivly, we dive into his book, Build the Fort. We talk about the book, what it means, how he came to it, and the inspiration behind writing it, as well as his future plans for being an author, how that provides purpose and fulfillment for him, somebody who loves helping and sharing with others, as well as thoughts on the business of writing books and his experience going through the process as an author in an ever-changing world of publishing. I always enjoy talking with Chris, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this conversation as well. Enjoy. Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the fort, because that's sort of a theme. It's from your learnings as a child, right, but that you've carried all the way through. And it sounds like you might have another project kind of in the works. But tell me about, the book. When did you write it? What was the inspiration? Kind of how did it do? Well, I mean, I know you're a best-selling author, obviously.
Yeah.
The best of the guys I know that I'm talking to right now, right? So
I'm the top-selling author in a 100-yard by 100-yard block in downtown Durham. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest seller in probably Montgomery County here.
There you go. That's right.
If anybody's ever written a book.
Yep. That'll come back to haunt you, I'm sure, because it'll be like someone probably has.
As soon as I said it, Nick, I'm there's going to be some guy who's going to pull up on his boat. It's going to be freaking 60-foot yacht, right? He's going to go, yo, dude.
Yeah.
You think you're the only guy out here?
Yep.
So the build the fort metaphor came from a guy named Marshall Clark. He wrote the original kind of code for MapQuest. He worked for me for a number of years back in that mapping company that was pre-MapQuest. Marshall and I worked together 3 times. In fact, he just came out this weekend to visit. He lives in North Carolina, he and his wife, Amy. And Marshall and I have developed over 28 years of language and a way that we talk to each other. And when we start kind of riffing on an idea, somehow I believe he came up with a thing. It's like build the fort. And so, and the first thing we'd ask is, where are we going to go steal the wood, right? As follow this metaphor, where are we going to go get the resources we need to help do this? And so it just became kind of a language to us, this metaphor. And we can, at this stage, we finish each other's sentences. We know how each other think, but that's how we've done it 3 times together. And so when I was looking for a way to, I was doing a TED talk over at Duke, and I was looking for a way. I knew I was ready to write a book, and I had written a bunch of, 200 and some blog posts for Inc. magazine. And how do I, there's a message I want to find here. And the message I came back with is, how do you just simplify this approach? We as adults we bring so much shit into our brain before we do something like, how do I spend the summer in Spain? And we just make this thing more complicated than it has to. How can we simplify? And so I thought about the build a fort as a metaphor or analogy. I don't know which one's which. There's some English person out there that can tell us, right? Some English major, but we can, how do we kind of simplify things, which both reduces the fear, gives us kind of a chart for the first 3 months, so we can kind of explore and discover whether this thing that we're thinking about has any merit. And so that's kind of what the book's about. I wrote it in, I think, 2014, or came out in 15, I think. I wrote it every morning for an hour and a half from like 6 to 7:30 in the morning before I went to work at Startup Factory. And it took me between 7 and 9 months. It took me 7 months of writing over a 9-month period to get it done.
I guess, tell me, I want to talk about like pattern recognition. So, tell me about not all the experiences, but you must have been seeing this over and over and over. Not only was it immensely helpful for you and your partner in crime in terms of kind of being able to break down hard problems into like complex problems into simple sort of metaphors,
right?
To get yourself focused and activated. But then, I'm thinking about the accumulation of all the entrepreneurs and startups and business opportunities that you saw. Was it just like everyone's overthinking it? Or was it, did you do was there research? I'm asking a bunch of questions all at once, so just take them however you want. But were you I'm interviewing people, or is it just kind of that thing that you just know because you're I see this all the time. It's just true. People overthink it. We need to simplify.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. It's more the latter here. I just kept seeing this stuff. And obviously, everyone's a little bit different. But like one of the things that I write about is that we seem to get very preoccupied with the evolved dream or vision of what we're imagining. And, that thing is at least 3, 5, 7 years out. And we get preoccupied with that. And I think, Steve Blank, as the first one that said, I think you can attribute this quote to him, that startups are not small versions of large companies, right? They're completely different. And so, so today when I sit down with an entrepreneur, one of the things I'm always trying to do is tell me, break them down. Don't tell me all this, like, don't tell me everything. Tell me the important stuff. And then hopefully use that as a place to say, so what are the things you need to accomplish over the next 3 months, right? Because, like my favorite stupid story, and this doesn't happen much anymore, but, some guy shows up or woman shows up and they're like, yeah, here's my startup and here's my team. And I have, here's the technical person, I'm the business person, and here's our, CFO. I'm like, what the fuck's a CFO doing in a startup? Like, you don't have anything to count, right? It's like they're trying to mimic, right, a big company in kind of a small version. And I'm like, okay, you're not ready. You don't have the right mindset for this. So, so most of it's observations, Nick. I mean, I think if I fast forward, and I probably have sat one-on-one with at least 5,000 people, and probably at least 3,500 of those people are entrepreneurs in the last 10 years. So that's a boatload of pattern recognition.
Yep.
So that evolved dream is the key. Like, okay, that sounds great, but what the hell are you going to do tomorrow? Right? How do you start putting one step in front of the other and start building some momentum? And I think a lot of this, sorry, now I'm on a rant. I think a lot of this is what you give yourself permission to not do, right? It's not what you have to do. It's almost, what are the things I'm not going to worry about right now, right? And I shouldn't, because that's the evolved dream.
Yep. That's great. And then how did writing that book change anything, if at all?
Yeah. Well,
I saw you just nod, so I'm just not going to really articulate. Just go.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. As a freshman year in college, I failed. Failure. My English 101 at Westchester University outside of Pennsylvania. I got hundreds on all the grammar tests, but he said my writing was so bad he had to fail me. The guy's a jerk, obviously. So, you want to talk about, feeling pretty good about being able to write a book and have people like it and get it. And, anybody who reads it, who knows me, says, oh my God, it's like you're talking to me, and that's how I write. I wrote as if I was talking and telling stories. It was very personally, it felt great to be able to write a book. My dad was a huge reader of books, and though he passed before I published it, I kind of felt like he was, I was channeling some of him and being on the other side of things. One of the reasons why I quit is I got 3 book ideas. One of them's already written and just trying to figure out how to get it published. And, one of them's spec'd out and about 10% done. And they're all in the it'll be a series. It's all in a Build the Fort series about how to simplify various things around entrepreneurship. So that feels like a fun thing. It's satisfying, and it's a way to get my message out to lots of people at the same time.
Yep. Is this going to be a subscription, like omni sort of channel business, or is it just going to be out there for the consumption and greater good of I guess all people who need to simplify?
Yeah, well, I mean, the way that I'm imagining it, and the interesting thing, the backstory, Nick, is that pre-COVID, when everything was going really, really well, including in Techstars, and we had lots of different initiatives. Techstars had launched a publishing company. So I was next up to do this series. And so think about, Build the Fort and then various roles, right? So, we're going to recast the first book into be more just for tech founders. The one I've already written is Build the Fort, about kind of a practical guide to being a startup community builder. Obviously, that's a duh, right? The the one that I really want to write is Build a Fort, what I'm calling now, we'll probably rename it, but late in life entrepreneurs, like people over the age of 40 who are going to explore entrepreneurship for the first time. I talk to lots of people who are in that place. The mindset is completely different than when you're 25 or 30, right? Single, right? Whatever. So you see that kind of set of themes, and you can imagine all the different ones that we can kind of really hone in on specific groups so that we can use a language and a mindset that is best consumed by them. How we get it out, I don't know. I've changed my mind 14 times. And when I'm in that place, I just wait. I'll wait till the right answer seems to evolve.
Yep.
Post Techstars not publishing because we closed down that publishing business.
Yeah. So minor setback, but we'll keep going. Yeah. What is it like? I mean, yeah, I guess what's it like to think of yourself as an author? I mean, there's so much content now too. And I think I'm doing content, right? And I think that was my sort of idea with the podcast was I have a lot of these convos over coffee or just sitting here in the office or whatever. And I'm like, man, I could like just record these and put them on the internet and someone will get value. Now, right now it's like 9 people. And then one of them, will be like, hey, good job. And then the other 8.
Hello,
like,
9 people.
Yeah, I know. Hello, 9 people. 18 views, baby. No, who knows? One of these will go viral. Something will happen. And then all of a sudden people will go back through the whole catalog. And that's what I'm banking on. Right. So kidding. But yeah, but it's just like, it's kind of altruistic a little bit at first, knowing that, hey, ... maybe in 2 years, if I'm consistent, then it will have its own sort of like, it'll be its own kind of megaphone to shine a spotlight on other things. But until then, you just have to do it. So how are you kind of thinking about author, being an author, doing this as either part of your kind of career journey evolution portfolio, or is it a passion project, kind of in between both? Because it definitely is, it's like each thing is like a step, right? Like, and this is definitely another step along that journey. So, I mean, I'm interested how you're kind of envisioning that as,
It's a great question, Nick, because it actually gets a little bit to what you asked me, 10 or 15 minutes ago, which is like, what are you doing now and why? So if I could kind of script it perfect, I would like to spend all my time writing, doing my own podcast, getting content out, and doing nothing but that. And to be honest with you, in my transition from, 100% all in business building and all, as I said to, Patty, I built and honed those muscles for 40 years. They're not going to go away tomorrow, right? So in this transition that we've been talking about, and me like taking that little consulting contract with one of the local cities, it's me not being able to fully let go of the old and do the thing that I want to do 100%, which is do content, write books, put out blog posts. But I'm hopefully on my way there, right? So maybe I'm halfway through that journey. I'm still feeling like I kind of want to do businessy things. I don't know. For some reason, the content doesn't feel like a businessy thing. So I don't know. Maybe I'm halfway through that journey. I'd like to, maybe the next time we talk and, maybe I will have finally cast the last of those muscles and reformed. And now I have my day of writing and podcasting and, writing, going back to writing for Inc., which I haven't, written for over a year. Those are the things that I'd like to do. They feel good to me, and they feel like, some neurons fire when I do that. Like, you want to be clever, you want to be, it's a way to be completely authentic for me, right? Like you just write what's in my soul and, all that kind of shit.
Yep. I mean, we talked about kind of why it's important to not have KPIs in the ecosystem side. And so I want to ask kind of like, how do you measure success here? Is it just sales, or if you're not in the active, part of stuff, are you missing out on feedback, or how are you going to get the feedback that you want to know that you're successful? Or what is that? What does success look like?
Yeah. Well, ultimately that's what I think we all struggle with, is what does success look like, and how do we know whether we're there? And I can't tell you I have a great answer for it. What I'll go back maybe to something you said before is like about feedback and how do I know things are working? I'm smiling. I wake up every day. I am motivated, not obsessed, which is probably a good place for me. I think you have to be obsessed when you're building a business. I'm not building a business, so I don't feel obsessed about anything. I feel like I'm dabbling and doing projects that kind of feel fun. Ultimately, I know that because I listen and I get feedback and I listen to it. This new project that I just mentioned, last week I kickstarted it. I interviewed 20 founders in a day and a half, over a half an hour period. Then you start getting emails back. Oh my God, thank you so much. You really gave me, thought about this. And some of them I said, listen, pop me an email because I want to introduce you to someone else, right? How do I know it's working? I know when I see them, doing things or actions support that I've had an impact on their life. I think I could coast the rest of the way just on that feedback.
Yep. The good vibes fuel,
It's
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, yeah, that is awesome. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, is there anything to unpack around, like, transitioning to authorship, like, and is that a career move for others? And I mean, career, like, I don't know. I mean, I use the word career and I almost feel bad because it's like, I don't even think, I just think career doesn't even exist as a word, right? It's sort of like this whole balance that we have between stuff that we do that is interesting to us, that like sort of helps us in the modern day economy, and that makes us happy, but that applies to all things, right? So family,
Right.
friends, businesses, ventures and stuff. But like, I mean, I don't know, that to me sometimes I think of, like, I don't know, there feels like there's a barrier to, like, oh, authorship, writing a book, like you have to have really made it or whatever. And I wonder if that's shouldn't be debunked, but I mean, you weren't like, oh, I mean, you weren't like I'm a celebrity, I'm going to write my memoirs, right? So it wasn't like, this is a slam dunk. You're like, I'm going to take a risk and invest my time. And is that something you think others should do because it was rewarding, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like, you
Yeah.
just don't, it's not the road less traveled totally, but I mean, it's kind of right on brand for you. Like, oh, I'm going to try this. But what, I mean, is that an experience share that like others should like think about it? Like I'm just thinking of all these people that have this value that could be unlocked. It doesn't always have to be in a book medium, but like, how can others be inspired? Yeah.
I what did I learn? I learned that if it feels good to express yourself in a book form or a blog form, like I believe everyone's an expert in something as compared to everyone else, right? And so you, at the very least, as you get older and older, you have a set of experiences to share, right? And that's what I think a career is, by the way, is the cumulative set of all of your experiences, right? That's
Yeah.
what a career equals. So, at the same time, yeah, people say, the world's littered with too many people yelling too many things. Well, great. Well, you're not really doing it. You're also doing it for yourself. And if it gives you a way to articulate how you think and you want to share it with people, go for it. I think everyone should be a blogger. I think everyone should be posting on Medium or whatever, or if it's Instagram, like, I don't really care. Like, I think you should express yourself. And by the way, I do believe as a professional, I believe that has to be part of who you are. I think we're responsible today for training ourselves because no one's going to train us. And you have to be curious about things. There's so many ways to go learn new things. And I think we should have a voice out there. And if you want to continue to build your career, you should find a way to get your voice out. Now, what I will tell you, I think it's almost impossible, or it is impossible for about 98% of the world to actually make money doing this. So if your goal is to make money with your writing, you better be really lucky or really good, and probably both. And definitely both if you're going to make like real coin. I think a lot of us wish that, like you said, like all of a sudden, dot, 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 and someone goes, hey, this is amazing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, would I love that to happen? Sure. I never have too much money, but I think it's hard to make that, your means of making money, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I remember I did find a publisher to publish my book, wonderful woman, and long time in the public industry. And I think if I remember correctly, she told me that, literally like 98% of all books authors sell less than 500 books. You can't make a lot of money selling 500 books.
Yeah. Man.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go do it. right?
Yeah,
You should be doing it for reasons other than monetary gain.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of direct and indirect gain too. I mean, and indirect doesn't even mean just good karma. I mean, it's awareness and also expertise and finding that one. Yeah, I mean, that one person it might just resonate with, and they're like, "Hey, I must talk to you," and now you're my like personal, you know, guru or whatever.
Guru.
Like, yeah, like just I get what did I read that about? I think it was like Tony Robbins. I was kind of like, he's awesome, and it's like every time he's talking, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I totally believe this. And I think it was actually it was like about his like daily routine with like 12-minute workouts, super extreme, like 15-minute sauna, like 1,000 degrees, and then like ice bath. And he has like an ice bath at all 7 of his properties,
Yes.
except one because he has a frozen lake out in his backyard. And I'm like, is anyone reading these details and sort of like being like, is this like not that relatable? But okay, cool. So I'll take a cold shot, whatever. But it was kind of talking about like early days, and it was some big time VC, but he was his personal like motivational coach, and he like negotiated some deal to get like 1% of his profits. But this guy, I mean, it's like a name. I mean, like John Doerr or something. Right. It might actually be him, but it's someone who's, I mean, obviously made mega money in the venture capital world. And I was like, oh, so like just the private client business. There you go. So dude, put this book out. Someone's like, I need help simplifying my life. And they're the next, Elon Musk, and you just get like 1% of the upside.
Right.
That's so it could happen. Yeah. But I mean, that's how my feeling too. I feel like kind of a more content isn't great when it's just all noisy and it's shit. But that's the point, right? I mean, like, don't listen or don't read it or whatever, because if someone picks it up and someone gets it and it just has some benefit, then you have incrementally done something and you should keep doing it.
Yep.
So I think that's all good. What's the next? So no more staying on the book and then we'll break, but like no more like there's not going to be like the revamped initial version anymore with the publishing. Are you going to relaunch the book 1 and then move into book 2, or what's that looking like now?
Yeah, it depends on which day I wake up, which side of the bed,
Okay.
I guess. The deal that Texas had with a publishing company, I'm slated to talk to them again. They were coming off not wanting to we were going to release 3 books at the same time, was the idea a year and a half ago, right after the election. And that's called a series. And typically you want to release 3 of them in the series at the same time, the original and then 2 new ones. The one was already written and the other is pretty specced out. So about 10% done. So that fell apart. And so when I got back to them, they're like, we don't want to release a series. This is during COVID. It was too risky. So I just sat on it. Like, again, if I don't know the answer, then I just sit on it. It's not, this isn't my life or death kind of thing. And so I've started looking around. Brad Feld just released a new book last week that's really good, called The Entrepreneur's Weekly Nietzsche, from the philosopher. He did not do this through his normal publisher. He went through a kind of what I call a hybrid publisher, which is what I did with Build a Fort. So he's asked me to kind of consider them for the 2 or 3 books. You take more of the upfront cost, but you get all of the gains at the end. Your typical publishing deal, you get 15% of net profits after all the, printing and publishing and all their work. It's really hard to get to any, and then sometimes you get in advance. Again, I'm just talking about the money part. I just want to figure out how to get this to the most people in the best way. So, I could totally, I could go through my old publisher, which is kind of a hybrid view. I could go with this group called Scribe that Brad's trying to convince me to do. There's costs and then there's upside, and my thing is my side projects. I don't want them to cost me any money. Do you know what I mean? So
I'm not living that. I'm not fulfilling that promise though right now. All my
right.
side projects seem to be.
Yeah. So I don't mind doing it for a while, but I want to have a kind of an arc to see that without a lot of, risk, that I can get to kind of break even. So I don't know. I developed a whole Kickstarter. I never launched a campaign around the books that could be an interesting way to, link to some of my consulting, right? Like some of the campaigns could be like, I'll give you, weekend consulting if you buy X thousand books and things like that. So there's lots of ways to do this. And the publishing industry is changing massively. It has been for a few years, but I really think it's coming fast and furious. And yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I gave myself a goal of this fall, post summer at the lake, to make a decision as a goal. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah. And I mean, it feels like the lessons are, it's intentionally simplifying it and not oversimplifying. Maybe that's, a misnomer. Like we should be oversimplifying is just simplifying whatever, but it feels like this could be, applied via a workshop series, or there's other kind of monetizations, but separate from the business, I guess, before we go, like we have too many things that we overcomplicate, and the Ford as a metaphor helps us simplify. What are the other like main takeaways of the book that we're gonna see thematically applied in kind of future writings?
Yeah, totally. And in fact, I want to talk about this, and then I want you to think about how you apply it to the Spain goal. Mm-hmm. I think the secret to my last 10 years in helping to build a Raleigh-Durham ecosystem, as inspired by a conversation with Brad Feld in 2009. I think the core to Brad's Startup Communities and Startup Community Way books, which are about startup communities. The key to Build the Fort, in fact, the first lesson in Build the Fort, is to socialize your idea with as many people as possible. It's all about connectivity. And it's amazing. I am probably one of the most connected people in Raleigh-Durham. Like I said, I've sat one-on-one with 4,000 to 5,000 people over the 10 years, right? You and I have done it. How many times have you had lunch and you just connect and you find out what each other's going on? And, there's times we've done, things together like Big Top, and there's times that I've pushed people to you, right? Potential, employees or future employees. To me, the whole world is about, spending time on yourself, connecting and connecting other people. And that's rule one of Build the Fort, is go out and share your idea with as many people as possible. Get that feedback. It's going to be rough in the beginning. It's only going to get better. And you get that to kind of 20, 30, 40 people, man, you're going to hear the same questions. You're going to hear, you're going to get smarter, and your idea is going to get smarter. Now apply it back to you. What I wish you would have done 3 years ago when you're considering this thing in Spain is just started spread that out to the world. At Texars, I know 2 or 3 people, and one, a very good friend who lives in Spain and would love to, and you never know whether they have an extra house or they have a thing, or, go talk to my buddy, you don't know. It's very serendipitous where the spark comes from. Mm-hmm. But you vastly improve the chances of something unbelievable happening the more you connect with people.
That's right.
And so that's I don't think I've learned that, to be honest with you, till the last 10 to 12 years. I wish I knew that earlier. It's just get out and talk to as many people as possible without fear or inhibition, because you just never know when something unbelievable kind of spawns out of that.
That's right. Is there, so I'm kind of running over, but is there like a kind of I don't want to say it's the evil dark side to that, because I don't mean that at all, but I love what you just said, which is, you just get into conversations and you never know. We should all be doing stuff that we like and that we're interested in and we're passionate about, and you don't know what it will be, right? You might just be like, I'm dealing with this problem, and someone else is like, oh, there's a solution. And all of a sudden it's like, bang. But guess what? Then now you've got another business opportunity. Right. And so I've just been really intentional about having all these conversations and just seeing what happens, but it does lead to a large backlog of things that could be projects. And if you want to keep 2 or 3 and contribute to others, it makes it kind of tough. Right. So when do you just say, I guess you should never stop at 3, because one might be the one that bumps the other 3 down a notch, but isn't there it's not a danger to that? I don't want to actually end on discouraging people from socializing ideas, but for me, it's good, but it's a double-edged sword, because then I have so many ideas to pursue that it's hard to kind of keep them and prioritize them.
Well, that's, to me, the two they're related, but they're not the same thing. Yep. So I think, Nick, you have to learn to say no. Yeah. But how do you know which ones you should prioritize unless you're out there doing what I just said, right? And I think the answer is that, we can't do 5 things. And it's not, I don't want to move something down the notch. I actually want to take it off the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember laying in my house in Chapel Hill on a Saturday morning when I made the decision to not do Triangle Tech Talk anymore and to turn it into my blog and give all the content away to, and give everything I had to, Adam and Michael about how to run exit event, including, let me introduce you to this wonderful woman, Laura Baberman. Took it off my plate. Maybe some people that's 2 things. Maybe it's only 1 thing. Maybe it's 5 things. But I think you have to look yourself in the mirror and decide how many things you can handle. And I think, look into the whole metaphysical stuff. 3 is a good number. And so for you and maybe for others, when you're out there by the way, you're socializing those 3 things as well, right? And you're getting, and maybe you find out that, one of them's starting to fade, both your interest and maybe the opportunity. And so you say, great, I'm going to take that off the list and I'm going to move something else up, but you got to take it off the list.
That's right. Great advice. Okay, man. Well, let's wrap. Invite to the lake house party or a book launching party, book signing party at the lake. I mean, all these things seem very, synergistic. Socializing ideas, signing a book, having an adventure at a lake, all to the good. Well, yeah, I mean, great insights as always. And like kind of a really fascinating journey. This is about kind of experience, shared journey. It's not really like how to or to do, right? So each conversation is kind of has different little nuggets that, folks can take away from. And this is no different, especially just kind of we've got a couple different cool transitions. But the one thread that I saw too, like just to kind of repeat back is like, it's funny to say, because you had like a million projects and one of your projects was to do 10 companies at a time, 4 times a year or whatever. So then I'm kind of like, well, hold on, that's cheating. God damn it. So, but you kind of knew, I don't know, you just like didn't like really hesitate to kind of just jump into the next thing and pull the plug, on others that you just didn't feel like doing anymore. Right. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to still be a corporate VC and kind of like dabble into a halftime accelerator. It's like, no, I'm doing accelerators. And then when you kind of weren't doing the accelerator and you want to move into ecosystem building, it's like, bam, I'm ecosystem building.
Yep.
Now you're like writing a books at a lake house, like sweet. Still same theme though, same underlying kind of tone theme, like helping others, like, and trying to make, in some cases, businesses out of that, and others just trying to give the stuff away in hopes that it kind of comes back in karma. But awesome conversation. I appreciate your time.
No, that was good fun. It was good fun. By the way, when you recorded this and you're recording, did you do cloud or local?
Local.
Yeah, because there's a setting I want to make sure if you're not doing it in your setup where you can record each of our tracks separately. Because it's really important, because I tried to put mute on when I coughed, but when you record the tracks separately, it's really easy for the editor to drop like when I cough, right?
That's right.
And sometimes it's harder if I cough while you're saying something to identify the cough. Anyway, it's a setting in Zoom that's really easy to use, by the way.
Okay, sweet. Maybe I'm doing it, maybe I'm not, but probably not. So, tips for the next time. All right, man. Well, dude, enjoy it. If you are you like around town? I mean, this is over, but so I'll find an outro kind of clip, bam. And that was another great conversation with Chris Heivly, best-selling author. I'm just saying best-selling because as according to who, right? According to me.
Exactly.
But do you come to town, or I feel like, are you
it's
around
getting
at all or no?
rarer and rarer. In fact, at the end of June, we gave up our apartment that we lived in the last 7.5 years in American Tobacco. I just figured I can come to Durham as often as I want and stay at the presidential suite at the 21C and still spend less money than I was giving the Goodman family. So I mean, I come in probably once every 2 weeks for a doctor's appointment or see someone, and there's a couple little projects that were stalled during COVID. We were going to do a bunch of us were going to do a startup week, which is a Techstars inspired event. We were supposed to do it in April of COVID. We're just starting to get the team back together. I don't know if you have any interest, but
sure.
and participate. Yeah, here's another thing. See, What are you going to lead and what are you going to just help with? Right.
That's
So find, I can only lead 3 at a time. So we're getting that band back together and seeing if we can put something together in October. So I come in for that. I mean, obviously a lot of, we've all learned how to Zoom.
Yep.
We'll see what happens, but yeah. And I'm helping my son. Did you ever meet Jake?
Yeah.
He used to bounce around. Jake's 27. I believe we're targeting July 15th for the launch of a skateboard shop in Chapel Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did he go move out and live on a farm?
He moved out to San Diego for 5 years. He did some farming stuff for a while.
Okay.
He ran a couple retail skateboard surf shops. Came back here, did the first cohort of Momentum.
Okay.
Learned how to write code. Kind of liked some of it, didn't like a lot of it. Went to work for Transloc for about a year and a half.
That's right.
And then quit right before COVID and hung out and went to Chicago for 3 months. Said it was because he wanted to explore. We used to live in Chicago when he was growing up. He said it was to explore Chicago. I think he was chasing a girl.
Nice.
When that didn't work out, he moved back. But he had already started with this really cool idea about an indoor skate park in Durham. And that's morphed into, let's start with a skate shop and then we'll see whether we can put the skate park. It's a really great idea and it's a growing industry and he knows how to run retail. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's a quick story on Jake.